Welcome back, guys. So picking up from where we left off last time, so we got the 12 port rotor free, so today we're going to have another go at the 10 port side. So problem on this side has been the bolts not wanting to release there. They're pretty seized in place, so we've got as many soft wedges in there as possible to spread the load out as we try to free these nuts. We've also got a bit of lumber underneath just to hold the Siren steady on the breeze block it's on. Also sprung out for a new 33mm socket there. This is 6-sided one rather than multi-sided, so that's less likely to cause rounding off of the nuts on there. And also got ourselves a blowtorch there. So plan is going to get some heat on these nuts. Hopefully that will free the lock that's holding them in place. And then with any luck we might get the 10 port rotor off today if it's willing to come. Okay, so we're just going to get some heat on these nuts now then. So we're just going for the lower half as heat rises. Hopefully that gives us a nice even warm up on them. So we're just not looking to get them red hot, just enough to make the metal expand enough to hopefully free the lock that's holding them. So we have made progress on the 10 port side today. We've finally got the bolts and the washers off, which was a mixture of heat and some very large breaker bars in the end to get the job done. Also, as the Siren didn't have its original base, to stop it moving around, I also screwed it down to these large chunks of wood there, which helped a lot as well. So in the end it was a case of tightening it up slightly to break the lock, and then I managed to get them to release. Interestingly, on these castles, obviously we've already got the 12 port side off. They've got opposite threads on each end, so you've got a right hand thread and a left hand thread as well, so you just need to make sure you're taking off in the right direction. So the next job will be try and get this 10 port rotor off. Hopefully it'll be as easy as the other side, but if not, we'll have to get some heavier tools on it. So as you can see, I've built a small wooden cradle there, so we're spreading out the weight between 4 contact points there. You can see on the lower bits of wood there. So the only thing actually holding this on is friction between the motor shaft and the rotor attachment there. So what I'm actually going to do is use the weight of the Siren slightly to my advantage. We're just going to lift this about an inch off of the floor. Then we're going to pop a block of wood over the shaft there and just tap on that, and hopefully we might get some movement on this rotor, because once it starts to go it will release, so we don't have to go all at it. Just going to give some light taps just to see if we get any movement on it, and then hopefully we'll be able to get this rotor off and start taking the stators off. Okay, well, unfortunately didn't have any luck with tapping the motor shaft. Didn't get any movement on the rotor at all doing it that way. So I loaded it up into the car and took it over to my friend Paul's house, who runs the Attic Boy 11 YouTube channel. Well worth watching if you're into Siren stuff. He does a lot of stuff on there too. So I didn't get a lot of time to film over there today, but I did film the rotor coming free. But I didn't really have time to do a video of explaining how the tool works. There is a picture I'll pop up in a second. So this is something he's just had made up himself by an engineering student for pulling the rotors off. So it's a metal disc that sits inside the rotor itself, and then you bolt on various wings going around the edge of it, which are making contact with the inner rim of the rotor. And then there's a large threaded metal bar that goes to the center, and as you screw that in, that puts downward pressure on the motor shaft, which then in turn puts upward pressure through the wings onto the inside of the rotor rim, and that's actually what pulls it up and free. So much more success with that. Managed to get it off, so I'll pop a picture of it up first and then play the video of that stuck rotor finally coming free. Rub on the side there, isn't there? Hopefully that's just that's going lovely, isn't it? Yeah. Ah, lovely. Okay guys, so we've reached another big milestone with this today. So we've got the 12 port rotor off at last. So we've got them both laid out down the bottom here. So just so you can see the difference between the 10 on the left and the 12 on the right. You can see the difference in vanes inside the rotor there, and obviously down the bottom here you can see the sort of size difference between the portholes on them. So that's giving us the two different tones. If we flip them over, we can also see the differences in balancing drill holes there between them. So obviously these are all cast from aluminium, and in the casting process it will be slight imperfections. So these have all been drilled by the factory for balancing on them, so they're when they're spinning up we haven't got vibration going through them. And you can see these lines down the back of here, these are just original casting imperfections on them, so that's always nice to see. So on the actual Siren itself then, we're ready to get the stators removed off of the motor housing down there. We have got a bit further also, we've got the electrical box removed off of the Siren there, and there's our pieces so far. So we've got the 10 port side and the 12 port side with the Woodruff keys inside to make sure they go back on the right side. All the small screws down the back there were off the electrical box covers, and that's the 10 port stator bolts already removed there. Unfortunately the original gasket there, you can see, has had better days, so that's something that we'll have to get remade. So today's job now, we're going to get the two stators removed, and then actually on the motor itself we've just got the electrical termination box to get off there. We'll pair them wires up as well, just so we don't get confused with them. And then I need to make up a wooden blanking plate to go over the opening once that's gone, so in the blasting and spraying process we don't get any blasting grit inside the motor itself. I've also got the motor rating plate that I need to come off. That seems to be, it's either riveted or split pin on these, I can't remember. And then we've got the mounting brackets that would have gone onto the base on the bottom of the motor there, so there's 4 large bolts in there that are going to need to come out. So that's today's job, and once we've got all them bits off we will be at the point where we can start getting some of these bits blasted and get them sprayed up. Okay, so first job, we'll just get a little bit more penetrating oil on each of those. Hopefully with these, yeah, they're usually quite simple to get off because they've had the rotor sat over the top of them all that time, so we don't tend to get so much of the weather exposure on these. So 16mm socket seems to be the closest I could find for these bolts on this, and just a small split washer on them again, just to stop them from loosening off. Okay. Right, now this is probably going to be quite tight on there, so just got one of these rubberized hammers here, just so we're not going to cause any denting on them. Should hopefully. There we go. Just enough to break the lock on it. So, looking at that stator there, doesn't actually look like we've got much of the oxidization that's happened on this one at all. Actually, we've got a tiny little bit there, but it's mainly all original paint on there, so this one could possibly maybe have been under the GRP covers, because that's probably the best looking set of those I've seen in a long while. And even on the motor flange, you can just see the white has started there, just on this outer edge a little bit there, but by no means is this anywhere near as bad as they usually are. Usually there's a couple of mil thick layer all the way around, so we can see just by the amount of dirt on there. It doesn't look like these have ever been off, so it looks like it's been together since the day it was built. It's got all the original paint colours on it, so that's nice to see. So we'll just slide that one off there. And we've already released the lower one, so now that is our motor free and clear. And that is the 10 port side there. So again, you can see a lot of the original cobwebs and bits in there. So again, that looks like this has never been apart, this one. So next job will be to finish stripping the last accessories off of the main motor here. So we'll get the electrical block off there, we'll get that blanked out there, this motor plate off. Probably the first job we'll get these two lower brackets off, because they're probably going to be the most awkward out of the lot. So we'll get some penetrating oil on them, and then we'll have a go, see if we have any luck getting those off. Okay, so we just got the rotors and the stators out in the daylight now, and you can just see on this 10 port side, just here, there are a few score marks just around the front edge there, and if we look inside the stator, you can see these score lines just going around at the back here. It doesn't go all the way, but it goes about half the way around there. So the stators themselves seem pretty flat and true, so hoping probably what's happened here is at some point a bit of debris, maybe a tiny stone or something's got inside between the rotor and the stator, and when this siren's been activated, obviously that's got caught and scored all the way around there. But and again, on the 12 port side, we can see a little bit of red paint rubbing. This is probably just where this paint has blistered up as it's got old, and when the siren's been run, when it used to be in situ, that's just rubbed off onto the stators there. So we can again see just on this one here, on the 10 port side, it's a little imperfection there again, but I believe this just looks like a casting imperfection. When you look at it closely, there's no sign of any rubbing on the back of the rotor, so that's not a contact point. I think that's just a casting issue there. But other than that, they're all looking in very good condition. Once they're stripped down and painted up, they will look as good as new. Okay, so just gonna get rid of these mounting brackets off the bottom of the motor here. So these would have transitioned between the motor itself and the base. So 14mm socket for these ones. Luckily they seem to be coming quite freely. Again, just another washer with those. And there we go. Okay, so we're just going to start taking apart the electrical termination block here for the main incoming for the motor. So the reason we did this out the way, we need to get a blanking plate over this opening here, because as you can see there is a hole straight through into the inside of the motor body there, which we need to get covered up. You just see the copper of the windings down in the distance there. What we don't want is anything getting down inside there, because obviously then that's going to start scraping around when the motor shaft's spinning inside. So we need to make sure that's all sealed up nicely. So we're just going to take each of these terminal blocks apart. There's actually two sets of bolts on each one. The first set just holds the shorting bar between each end of the coils there, and then there's a secondary bolt down below it, which is actually holding, there's another washer under there, and then we've got the cable coming in. So what we're going to do, we're going to take these off in pairs and take them together so we know which pairs go together, and then we'll be able to get this block completely out. So we've got the main electrical box disassembled there, so you can see all its component parts there. So all these will need a good cleaning up, especially see on some of these copper shorting bars. Some of them are really grimy there, so they won't be making the best electrical connection. So we'll get all those cleaned up. We've got all the pairs going down to the windings, all taped up ready, so we'll get them tucked away inside there, and then we will need to put probably a little bit of plywood I'll cut to size and screw back on over the top there just to seal that gap up there. So you can see where the electrical box was removed, that's where it was sat. 3 of the bolts came off, lovely and easy. Unfortunately the last corner did give us some grief, so we lost a small piece of metal off there, which we'll have to get glued back into place. But we did end up having to drill the last head off there because that lower bolt there was just completely rusted solid, so that will need drilling and tapping out as well. So that's something else we'll have to get done before this motor goes off for blasting and spraying. Okay, so it's looking much more ready now for its blast and spray job. There's a couple of little jobs left to do. I've still got the motor racing plate to get off. That's very thin aluminium on there, so I'm just going to have a think on the best way to get that off where we're not going to damage that plate. Obviously need to get that drilled and tapped and a cover made up for that. We've drilled out the rivets that held on the original nameplate there, so we're going to get that cleaned up, and we don't want that to be on there when that gets blasted, otherwise that will just damage it. And the cork gasket which sits between the electrical box there and the back of the motor housing there, we'll have to get that sent off and a new one made up. But other than that, that's pretty much just little finishing jobs there. We've got the motor brackets off for the bottom there. The other thing we are going to have to do for this one is get a base made up for it, because obviously it's missing on this one. But next job will be to get one of the rotors and stators off to get the paint colour match. So we're going to go with the original lighter colour, which you can see underneath there, which was the original colours this particular model came out of the factory at, and match that red as well. And then we can get paint ordered, get it blasted, get it all painted up, and hopefully start getting some of this back together and give her a full run once we're there.